today we're going to focus on how teachers can differentiate instruction using instructional videos and Google Classroom. Teachers can differentiate instruction using instructional videos in Google Classroom. To begin, it's important that the teacher has one group of students identified that will work with the teacher, and then other students will be working on developmentally appropriate skills. Using formative data, the teacher is able to decide which students need to review specific skills. According to the formative data results, I was able to figure out one group of students needs to work on dialogue punctuation, and another group of students needs to work on subordinate conjunctions, complex sentences. So, while one group of students is working with me on a specific skill, I'll have two more groups independently working on a specific skill that meets their academic need. This is how I utilize Google Classroom to differentiate instruction. So I need to move to Google Classroom. This is my Slate 2018 classroom, and I have teachers that have graciously said yes, they will be my students in this classroom so that I can demonstrate how I differentiate instruction. And so one group of students needs to focus on punctuation of complex sentences, and that their punctuation of complex sentences is appropriate. And so I have my learning target, writers edit writing by punctuating complex sentences appropriately. Step 1, identifying a subordinate conjunction at the beginning of a sentence. Step 2, placing a comma in the middle of the sentence. And then the directions for the student: watch and listen to the instructional video, then edit your narrative for appropriate punctuation of complex sentences. And so the student, this particular student, it's just one student who needs to work on this. Chris Sievert needs to work on this, and so he will click on this video, he'll watch using headphones, he'll listen and engage, and then as he goes, he can pause if need be, and the end result is that once the video is complete, he's to review his narrative and look for complex sentences and make sure that they are punctuated appropriately according to the information that was presented in the video. And then, because I want to check in and make sure that the information sticks and that Chris understands it, I have a formative assessment for Chris to complete, where he can complete a formative assessment regarding complex sentences and subordinate conjunctions. And he can complete this formative assessment, and I will be able to view the results of the assessment at a later time to see how it worked for Chris. So that's just one student. I'm able to differentiate for one student. It could be multiple in this group, but in this case it's one. I'm able to differentiate for this one student and make sure they're focused on complex sentences and subordinate conjunctions, because that's what this particular student needs. They're reviewing it, they're practicing it with their writing, and then they have a quick formative assessment to complete. So that's the one student. But then the other student needs to focus on punctuating dialogue. So I have an announcement in Google Classroom for this particular student. So this is a saved announcement, and to begin, I have to go to all students and make sure it's just my one particular student that needs to complete the announcement. And I have my learning target in there. Writers punctuate dialogue by applying punctuation rules. 1, use double quotation marks at the beginning and end of spoken words dialogue. 2, periods, commas, question marks, and exclamation points always go inside quotation marks. 3, name first and dialogue tag second. 4, include a comma to separate the dialogue tag from the spoken words. That's my learning target for punctuation rules. My directions for the student is: watch and listen to the instructional video, then edit your narrative for the appropriate use of dialogue punctuation. So my next step is to go to my YouTube page and find my video for dialogue punctuation so that this particular student can review the information. And as I browse through here, looking for dialogue punctuation, I have my video for dialogue punctuation. And what I need to do is just make sure I have the web address, copy it, and then paste it as a link. And then I can post this announcement, and one student will be able to work on dialogue punctuation. So now this particular student has directions to watch and listen to the instructional video and then edit the narrative for appropriate use of dialogue punctuation. And this student's work will be assessed based on their writing. I will go back and review their writing to see, did they understand how to punctuate dialogue appropriately? And so, to wrap things up, we have our groups of students that are working independently. One group is working on dialogue punctuation, the other group is working on subordinate conjunctions and complex sentences, and the third group is with the teacher, working on a developmentally appropriate skill. So, to wrap things up, teachers can differentiate instruction using instructional videos and Google Classroom.